Hello everyone and welcome to the next video. Today I am going to look at a game between two very famous players. So it will be a game between Timur Gareyev against Daniel Naroditsky. So of course Naroditsky is very well known as one of the best commentators, a very strong grandmaster and blitz player. And Timur Gareyev, I believe, holds the Blindfold simul record. So very well-known figures in the chess world, and this game was played in the USA Championship 2014. d4, knight f6, e4, g6, knight c3, bishop b7, e4, d6, bishop e2, castle, bishop g5. And here Naroditsky played rare move knight c6. So of course, it's good to know once again or repeat that this e5 is not really working for black at this moment, or rather not at all, because you can just take queen d8, rook b8, and knight d5. Especially in blitz and online, you can win many games like this. So therefore, black, tries different type of moves to support this break. Knight c6 is one of them. And here we don't play knight f3, which probably would transpose to some other line of the King's Indian. So it's not a bad move at all, but it's not punishing black for this knight c6. So we play d5 right away, not waiting for e5. So black goes knight e5, and we go knight f3. So that's very logical. We could also go f4, but that's kind of what black is hoping for. Even though it's probably just a good move, black plays something like knight e7, and he's saying, okay, something like a 4-pawn attack variation of the King's Indian, but the pawn is not on e5, which means that this bishop on g7 can have a future on this long diagonal, maybe some c6, queen b6, these typical ideas of the weakened diagonals. Some counterplay from black. So I like knight f3, but Gareyev played. Naroditsky took on f3, bishop f3. So basically we can already conclude, I believe at this moment, that the opening was a great success for white, because we have a space advantage in the center, and this knight from b8 made 3 moves just to compare to the 1 move our knight did. So we won some time for the development there, and we have really nice and comfortable space advantage. So black goes knight d7, queen d2, knight to c5. It's pretty logical. I mean, black doesn't want to close this bishop on g7, and in order to activate the knight, it has to go to c5 to not to block the diagonal on f6. So we castle, black plays a5. This is against b4, so very natural move. And first kind of important moment, I believe, in the game, or at least it's a good idea to know that normally on a5, if we can, it's great to react with b3. So it's a little bit similar, what happened already many times, that when black's pawn was on c5 and black plays a6, wants to play b5, then we react with a4, and on a5, if black wants to gain space on the queen side with playing a4, then b3 is the normally best way to meet it, because if now a4 is happening, then we have b4. So kicking the knight, and if the knight goes back, then one more important move is to make our structure perfect, is to play a3. So not to allow black to put a pawn on a3 and like isolate these 2 pawns a little bit from a2, and maybe have some counterplay against the b4 pawn, but just to perfectly build our pawns, and it's all fine. So if we are not playing this b3, but for example, let me just show this move. Then black is playing a4, and at some moment like c6 is coming, maybe queen a5 with a3 ideas, and there can be some issues on c3. So Gareyev played b3, and black played bishop d7, rook a2 e1. So this move is not the first choice of the computer, but I like it very much. Probably the most logical move, I would say. So we want to play for f4 e5. So that is our idea. Maybe pushing the h pawn up the board is also an idea. But definitely both rooks will be useful in the center or on the king side. And this bishop can be removed to d1 right now without closing the rook on a1. So it's very natural, and here Naroditsky played b6, which I mean, he has a difficult position, but b6 looks dubious to me, to be honest. So it's I'm not exactly sure what b6 does for black. So normally I would expect black to play c6 and try to aim for some counterplay by bringing the queen over there to b4 or to b6, and once the queen is on b6, then a4 is again an idea because we cannot play b4 since it is just hanging. So something like this I would expect. And okay, here I looked a little bit into the position, and what I like the most, I believe, is just to play with h4. So very useful. We are playing h5 in the next move. Have ideas like h6 or hg. In order to play queen b6, black first have to play rook e8, not to lose the pawn on e7. So h5, queen b6. And here we already have many interesting tactical ideas. The most spectacular one, I believe, doesn't quite work, although maybe after more analysis it's possible to make it work, but it doesn't matter that much. I mean, idea is more important, that we have such ideas like pushing e5 here, for example. It looks completely ridiculous at the first sight, but the idea is that after bishop takes, rook takes, d takes, so we sacrifice an exchange, but we have bishop e3 move. So we are pinning the queen on b6. Queen has to go to b4, and suddenly we switch to straightforward attack. Bishop c5, queen c5, knight e4. So black has to go to d4, and then queen h6 with the idea of knight g5. And black has only one move here, which is bishop f5, but apparently it looks like it's enough to hold the balance. So after knight g5, g takes h5, and this bishop is stopping the checkmate. We can play bishop h5, rook f8. Line continues, but eventually black is holding. And we can even try to mix these things up a little bit. So what was the problem in the previous line? That at the end the bishop could cover h7, right, by this gh idea. So here we can throw in hg, rook e5, de, bishop e3. So we are going down the same line. Let's say queen b4, here takes queen d4, and after queen h6 here black has to resign because there is no defense against knight g5. Queen h7, f7, or h8 checkmate. So this is losing, but unfortunately here queen b6 is a fantastic defensive idea for black, and just by miracle black holds. Although once again I am not 100% sure, but it looks like black is holding. So the idea that after queen h6 there is cd5, knight g5 with the idea of queen h7, but queen f6 is there. So that's kind of holds things together. But okay, we can throw in c5, for example. So it's not a draw. We can definitely try to play here and make it work. And if queen a6, we can throw in bishop e2 and then queen h6. So yeah, not an easy position, very, very risky for black, but computer didn't show at least an obvious win for white. But fortunately, this is just one of the tempting options. Eventually, there is a very simple solution here, just to play bishop to e3. So removing the bishop and stopping a4. Of course, if black plays a4, we simply take the pawn because of the pin the knight cannot take. So it's not working, and when queen b4 is coming, then we have bishop d4. So basically, this nice bishop on g7 is neutralized this way, and that's also a defender of the king. And black is in a very bad shape. So, for example, if black carries goes on with this a4 idea, it has a very nice refutation. So we take g7, king g7. We give an h6 check, so that's why it's good to have a pawn here. So sometimes we take, sometimes we push. King goes to g8, queen d4. So mate in one there, f6. And if you watched yesterday's video, then the next move will not come as a surprise for you. So e5 looks like well blockaded and impossible to play, but nevertheless white plays it and the position is completely crushing. So for example, d takes, rook takes, and if f takes, then queen takes, and this mate on g7 is not stoppable at all. I mean, with queen sacrifice, but that's another story. So this is very nice. That's why a4 is not working right away. So probably safe solution for black is to safer to take on d4, queen d4, now play f6. So now the pawn is not on h6, and okay, here again many promising moves, but I like one in particular. So our bishop is misplaced on f3. It's doing nothing, and also stops f4, and the rook lift to g3, for example. So we can just remove it to d1, and by accident it also stops a4, because now we again have one more piece protecting there. So black is without counterplay, and we can continue with rook e3, rook g3, f4, e5 is in the air. So the position is super tough for black. Yeah, it's really not easy to play here. So anyway, I just wanted to go into some detail with c6, because this is the move I would expect to happen in general in this type of position. So this is how black wants to create counterplay, not with b6. So Naroditsky played b6. Gareyev continues the plan with bishop b1, and now Naroditsky went queen e8. So okay, the plan is clear now. So if you do nothing at this moment, then black wants to push e5, and then maybe f5. So he wants to have some presence in the center. He just cannot afford to be, completely crushed by this f4 e5 idea. But the problem was that after f4, black is just not in time, because so if e5 now, then we have f5, and these structures are awful. So we have a space advantage because of this pawn on the king side. We have f6 ideas even. So normally black plays f6, bishop e3, and black tries to close the king side, but okay, we don't really have to be worried at all that this will be closed. So h4, h6, and for example, king f2, we will double on the h file. We already have sacrifices in the air, and the bishop can join as well. I mean, this position is absolutely bad for black. It's not a fortress at all, and if black wants to play something like e6, it already allows e5, so it doesn't help. You can see white's pieces are much more mobilized than black pieces, so it's just bad. So f4, and Naroditsky went for b5. So to create some play. I mean, he had to try it. I believe other options looked much worse. So b5. So Gareyev took. bishop b5, and now rook f3. Bishop to a6. And yeah, up to this moment, I believe all the moves of white were like just great. And here, of course, he played a good move, a standard move, what we want to play, but it was maybe even stronger to play a little bit strange looking move. But for example, in the modern defense or in the Peertz, but also in the King's Indian, sometimes it's or Benoni, sorry, it's a decent attacking idea to push f5. So white is anti-positional because, of course, we give up e5. Now the knight can be more comfortable on f6 because e5 is not coming, but the idea is like, just a very simple mating attack. And it's actually very efficient because bishop is nowhere and knight has to run back, basically. So knight goes back to d7. We play bishop h6, knight f6, and then we play rook h3. And black has simply not enough time to create any play, and our idea is to take, then join with the queen on h6, play g4, g5, and then checkmate on h7. And it's really not a complicated plan, but it's very complicated for black to stop it or have any way to even try to stop it. So I believe this f5 was, in this particular case, even stronger than the typical idea what Gareyev played, which is e5. It still looks extremely good, but now Naroditsky came up with a very nice move, queen b8. And that's a really nice practical move. And yeah, the position is highly instructive in this moment, so it can really easily get out of hand for white. So for example, the most obvious move in this position is to take on e7. I believe is a very serious mistake. Almost gives away all the advantage white has, which is like remarkable, simply because it will activate all the black pieces, but especially these two, of course. So let's look into a few lines. So bishop takes on e7, rook e8, of course. And what is really amazing that after e takes d6, so it's like very natural sequence of moves. C takes d6. So white has won a pawn. And from a clear advantage, he went to completely lost possession here. So that was quite surprising for me to see at first that, okay, just two wrong moves and the position is losing for white. It's not even slightly worse or equal or anything like that. It's completely lost. And why is that? Because all of a sudden all pieces came alive with black. Our d1 bishop is not good, c3 knight is doing nothing, rook on f3 is misplaced, suddenly there is nothing on the third rank and we have loose pieces all over the board. So what ideas black has here, like for example queen to a7, so double attack on the bishop, or in the long diagonal, this knight is loose, as I said, knight d3 checks are coming, queen b4 is an idea. There is simply no move what white can make here, which again, it is very surprising. You can check yourself. There is really nothing. It is just losing. So I tried king h1, just to get out of at least of this diagonal, but then there is this very nice move, knight to d3. I mean, it's very hard to tolerate this knight here, so it normally has to take, queen d3, queen c7, with double attack here and here. But it looks like with knight b5 we can save ourselves, but unfortunately, even though the queen is hanging, there is rook e7 with the back rank mate idea on e1, so this line is losing like this. So yeah, this is a remarkable position, and that's why we shouldn't allow too much activity to our opponent. So on rook e8, relatively the best is to play bishop f6, and after bishop f6, ef, again this queen b6 is coming, and black's pieces are just good, king h1, knight d7, and the game is just simply very complicated. We cannot really hold on to this f6 pawn, because again, after knight e4, queen b4, it is black who has the advantage. So queen trade is a threat, e4 knight is hanging, and bishop is more active, rook is more active, we are pinned on the e file. So it can go wrong very quickly. So yeah, this bishop e7 is not good, and Gareyev played an amazing move, a really nice one. Now he goes for f5. So instead of taking material, he's willing to sacrifice more if needed. We are not interested in one pawn, we want more, and we want to keep our pieces strong and not open play for the black pieces. So let's see here if black takes the pawn, then of course it's rook e5 immediately, getting rid of the strong bishop, and then bishop e7. So it's a double attack, and if queen b6 doing some discovered attacks here, then we just go king h1, and on rook e8 f6 is very strong with queen h6, queen g7, basically not unstoppable, but yeah, very hard to meet, and white is winning. So this is not good. d5 is slightly better to keep this bishop on the board, but after bishop e7, so you can see the difference that we still take on e7, but we sacrifice the pawn, and actually this pawn is like rather a problem for the black pieces. So the bishop is closed. Also, we are not going to be pinned on the e file, so it's pretty nice. Queen b6, king h1, and again rook f8, and yeah, this f6 is a crucial idea with a nice position. So on f5, Naroditsky played f6. Pretty logical to stop f6, but yeah, it makes g7 bishop now hopelessly bad, basically. E takes on f6, ef6, bishop h6, and queen b6. And since we did not trade yet on g7, now white could play this nice move, bishop e3. So not only like securing this diagonal for the king, but also pinning the knight, the queen. So black went rook a2 e8, and white went knight a4, which is very logical. I mean, maybe mathematically speaking, there is a better move like bishop c2, for example, but knight a4 is super logical to basically, trade some active black pieces and go for an endgame where our structure will be better, and the g7 bishop for the time being is extremely passive. So here Naroditsky went knight e4, which, I mean, a very spectacular move, and I would say a good practical try maybe, but yeah, it's rather spectacular than good. And given that how well Gareyev played the rest of the game, maybe already a losing mistake. So I believe queen b4 would have been better. So now white takes, ab, knight c5, dc. So now we cannot take because our rook is hanging. We play king f2. And yeah, white is attacking the weak pawns. If black goes, for example, c4, then bishop e2, bishop is pinned. Yeah, very tough endgame for black, but it would have given better chances than the game to save this position. So knight e4, knight takes b6, knight d2, bishop d2, rook e1, bishop e1, c b6. So many trades, but once we look at the final position on the resulting position, so black has weakness here, black has weakness here. This bishop is, I mean, it will take some time for to remaneuver it to help on the queen side, and our bishops are already ready to attack. What would be a serious mistake in this position is to take on g6. I mean, that would be again like probably double question mark, because after hg we just make it so easy for this bishop to join, and we are not better at all. But this f5 pawn is doing an amazing job to block that bishop. So white went rook c3 with the idea of playing rook c6 and hitting these 2 pawns. And the next move is definitely the losing mistake already, but in a horribly difficult position. So what is black's problem here? So what looks like the normal move is rook c8 to stop the invasion of the rook, but actually it's not really stopping because we can still play rook c6. So the pawns are hanging, and if black takes, yeah, this is just a losing endgame. Bishop f2 will come, and this pawn is very dangerous. If so, let me just show a few moves, like, sorry, for example, king f7, then bishop f2, b5, and for example, just bishop e2. So pinning this bishop, and a4 is coming next. White is crashing. So that's why rook c8 is not good, and that's why Naroditsky went rook to e8. Probably the best try is to play bishop b7. So the point is to attack d5, which of course we are not giving. So bishop to f3, and now rook c8. So in this way, this is kind of preventing rook c6, even though I am not even sure that rook c6 is not the best move in this position. So again, just for this domination, we can sacrifice an exchange and have a fantastic compensation, or maybe even a winning endgame objectively. So let me show first the clear way to get an advantage. It's rook c8, bishop to c8. So now, of course, we take because bishop wants to take. So fg, hg. And now, very important, so we are not just like starting to attack the pawns and then see what happens, but first play bishop e2. So fixing the pawn, and now bishop f2 is the threat to take on b6. So black plays bishop d7, and now the key fixing move a4. So basically bishop f2, bishop b6 is coming, and I believe it should be a winning endgame, although it will require some work because black is not losing both pawns. So for example f5, bishop f2, bishop can come to c3, and yeah, this is something we still have to convert. And we have very good chances to do so, but the game continues. And I also looked at this other one, what I really like, to play rook c6. So basically, again, black cannot really give up b6 and d6. So that's probably takes with the bishop and dc6. And our bishops are going to be insanely strong, and this pawn is already very strong, and the rook is very passive. So practically speaking, it's a very interesting try. King f8, bishop d5, for example, bishop h6. And yeah, I mean, it's even a miracle that black can stay in a game, or with some nice tactic. So for example, bishop f2, b5, we go bishop b6, black cannot really give up, a4, and if we go c7, it looks like the game is almost over, but black has a nice trick. So after king e7, we go bishop e6, but there is bishop e3 check. Of course, white still keeps the advantage, but this is again something which not a very easy technical task. But we don't have to even rush with this c7. We can just play g4 and then walk forward with the king. Black cannot really do much. I mean, the rook is completely stalemated. The king cannot get close, right? So again, both of these options look very, very good for white. So instead, rook e8 was played by Naroditsky, and then bishop f2, gf. We are even down a pawn for a second, but the rook enters on c6, and that's basically it. So black's queen side is collapsing. Rook b6, bishop d3, h4. Just opening the back rank. It's also a nice move. Bishop e4, bishop f3. So he traded in order to enter with the rook, but okay, simply a4, and you can see that everything is extremely well protected. Pawns on light squares. For us, black's bishop cannot do much. Rook b2, bishop e3, king f7, and one more nice technical move. I mean, black maybe is dreaming about some king g6, bishop h6 in some good day, but Gareyev played h5, so the king is basically in a box. Here cannot come out. So bishop e7, bishop f4, king e8, check, rook b7, king e8. King is basically just walking now a little bit. Okay, no need, because black is not attacking b3 now. Rook b5, king d7. I mean, he cannot do much once again. Basically, White can just play king e1, bishop d2 at any moment and take a5. So it's not a pawn to save. King d7 takes, rook c3, check. And now king e2. That a extra pawn is easily winning the game. A5, bishop d8, and again the cleanest way, rook takes h7, allowing black to take that pawn, but forcing this trade. And after king e3, black resigned. There is no way to stop king f4. Then king f5. Then we push h6 pawn, and eventually we enter with the king on e6 and take d6, and that will be the game. So I believe a really fantastic game from Gareyev. Some moment Naroditsky tried with really nice ideas, especially that queen b8 to create mess, but all the way Gareyev handled it very well, and he played some very nice moves to win this game.